Well, Nick, you commentated Ash's match today. It's good news for everyone waking up in Australia that she's navigated the first hurdle into the second round. Contrasting sort of sets, but all you've got to do is get through these early matches. How did you see it from the commentary box today?
I thought she played well at times. Brett, I thought, started impeccably well. Started a really fast pace, took a lot of time away from Zvonareva, served beautifully in the opening set. I think she served 11 aces today, Brett. And, when you consider her average number, I was looking it up, she's averaging 6 this season per match. So she's almost doubled her tally today, which, again, I think just in the big picture is indicative of the quick conditions. I've talked to a lot of coaches this week, and they're telling me that the court is quick, but it's also a low bouncing court, Brett. And I think that helps Ash's serve. We know Ash can serve well on most courts, but I think we saw that today. Quite a few doubles, I think 6 doubles as well, but a very, very fast start. I thought Zvonareva actually responded really well in the second. I think the one downside for me, perhaps, to a quicker court for Ash is that it's a little tough for her to get around her backhand. She can actually, players can get to the backhand a little bit more on a quick court. Doesn't quite have the time to run around it. And I think Zvonareva actually did that pretty well in the second. We saw her coming in a little bit more, forcing Ash to pass off the backhand wing. Zvonareva's always been, as you know, a pretty volatile competitor, but a good competitor. You don't get to world number 2 without having some good tools. She's nearly 37, so it was an impressive effort still to be out here. But a decent start for Ash, but I think, perhaps a little bit of frustration at times. She couldn't quite maintain the level.
I mean, Ash has played, when we think of the last couple of years, with all her success, she has played a lot of these sort of 3-set matches where she leaves the door a little ajar and then she's got this ability to reset and get it done down the stretch of a match. This year she seems to have got, better at that, of getting some more sort of straight sets victories. But, the Ash Barty game obviously is liked by just about everyone in the tennis industry. She's been the most consistent player. And often she'll probably describe her game as always been a work in progress. She's never settled. She's going back to the practice court, working on the little nuances just to try and give it the edge. But it's pretty sound. Osaka yesterday, Chris Evert, and you respect Chris Evert's opinion, obviously, with her standing in the sport, really talking up Osaka, that she looks in a good space and this is the court where she's had obviously 2 great results. How do you look at just the top end there with what Ash is going to be up against over the next fortnight?
I think conditions are going to be interesting, Brett. So much of what we see on these courts is dictated by pace of the court, what the weather's going to do. It's going to rain here for 2 days now, they're saying. So that could play a part as well. Players are going to have to maybe cram things in a little bit in terms of matches played. I thought Osaka looked excellent last night. I have to say, I think she's very comfortable in these conditions, especially on this court. She plays great one-strike tennis. She can change direction on the ball. She's one of the players that definitely, I think, can trouble Ash. You've also got, the fascinating thing about women's tennis, Brett, is that we were looking at the top 5, and each of the top 5 players plays a very different brand of tennis, don't they? You've got Sabalenka at 2, who crushes the living death out of the ball, and yet probably could do with a bit more subtlety. You've got Ash at 1, who has the subtlety, and yet plays a very different type of game. So there's a lot of different styles at the top of women's tennis right now. A long way to go. Ash has got a tough one next. Towson is a very, as you know, from down under, she won Aussie Juniors. She is coming off a good winning streak as well in Chicago. So one match at a time, I think, Brett, one match at a time.
Yeah, no doubt, and won her first title earlier this year. So, former junior world number 1, good pedigree for Towson. So that'll be an interesting matchup. And just a quick word on Medvedev. I think everyone probably wanted to go home by the time his match had finished on a really big day one last night. He was pretty clinical against Gasquet, who's had some tough first-round matchups in the twilight of his career through the slams this past year. But he looks in pretty good nick, Medvedev. But Zverev had a really solid win today, as well as the 2 guys we're really speaking about as the biggest challenges to Novak.
Yeah, Sam Querrey's on a bad run, isn't he? Good draw for Zverev. I think 5 in a row. I think it's 6 in a row now for Querrey. Probably looks like, without being too negative, it feels like he's on a downward spiral. I'm not sure he's going to get it back. There's a lot of players, who are in that mould now, especially with points coming off here. Brett, this was the last time that points were held on from a couple of years ago, so they're coming off. Obviously, Kyrgios felt that outside the top 100 now. Medvedev very sharp. These are great courts for Medvedev, I think, Brett. These are perfect courts for him. He doesn't want the ball up too high. He loves a bit of pace in a court. He can serve big on anything. And yeah, Gasquet just simply didn't have the weapons. So long way to go. But as I say, the next couple of days are going to be interesting here, Brett. It's going to rain a lot. There's going to be an advantage, I think, for players playing on the two main show courts. From what we're told, we may not get much on the outside courts. Things can change, but it could make the weekend pretty crammed.
Great to chat, Nick. We'll do it again.
Cheers, Brett.